I was trying to look.
Is that on the 29th?
Yeah.
He's still got.
Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the Cabinet on Wednesday, 12th of November 2025. Item 1, apologies. None have been received so far. However, Councillor Forsey's not here, but Councillor Emma Corner has just joined us. So can we provisionally put Councillor Forsey down?
Yes,
But she might turn up online. Item 2, any declarations of interest?
Item 5, Gwent Primary School. Estyn.
That's the local warden. Yeah. Government. Is that okay, Mike?
Yeah, can you call that?
Okay, and if colleagues, you notice as we go through the papers that you should have declared something at that time, please do it there and then. Item 3, minutes from the previous October Cabinet meeting.
happy to move.
Seconder, please, Councillor Lacey. Okay, item 4, September revenue budget monitor. This report explains the current forecast position on the council's revenue budget and the financial risks and opportunities that present themselves within the September update. This is a second revenue monitor that's presented to the Cabinet this financial year. Against the net budget of £428 million, September revenue monitoring position represents a 341k underspend when taking into account the contingency budget, temporary underspend in non-service areas. While this suggests a broadly balanced position overall, it should be noted that service areas are collectively forecast to overspend by 5.1 million, excluding schools. This update provides confirmation that some of the known risks at the start of the year have materialised and continue to cause significant overspends within social services, housing, communities and education. As anticipated, it currently proving possible to offset service area overspends with general contingency underspends within the capital financing. So the key areas contributing to this forecast position are significant pressure of 933k overspend within housing and communities, service in relation to property related issues within the community's portfolio, subsidy shortfalls. We've discussed at length throughout this year, let alone financial year, about the pressures on housing in Newport and the increase in population in the city, which obviously housing would be the first to experience this huge demand. In addition, we've seen the average payment costs increase transport costs within adult non-residential and supported living services, contributing to a £2.4 million overspend. However, these overspends are partly offset by underspend within the adults residential service, increase in demand for out-of-area placements and low occupancy in children's in-house residential provisions is contributing to a 4.4 million gross overspend, partially mitigated and reduced to 692k via the use of one-off reserves and grant funding. Above average placement costs for 16 plus accommodation are contributing a further 1.5 overspend of the children's services. Increase in demand to secure additional learning needs, local provision to avoid more costly out-of-area placements is contributing a further 842k overspend to the overall service position. There are forecast underspends against non-service budgets, specifically the general contingency and capital financing. Savings in these areas are set out within the report are more than offsetting the net service overspends, resulting in a small overall underspend for the council, as already articulated. There is an anticipated shortfall against the delivery of 25-26 and prior year savings of 568k, and these shortfalls are part of the overall position being reported. It's important to note that whilst this is the second monitoring report to Cabinet focusing on the midpoint of the financial year, there still remains the prospect of the position to change. Obviously, we're still quite halfway through the new financial year. While some uncertainties have been clarified, uncertainty remains around potential increases in demand for people-based services, the availability of in-year specific grants. Moving to schools, as schools variances are managed by individual school balances, the overall underspend of 3-4k does not reflect the school's position. Schools are a collective forecasting overspend against budget against 4.5 million. You see balances reduced from 13.6 to 9.1 by the end of the financial year. Considering the level of recurring expenditure included within 4.1 overspend, there's a recurring further risk of further schools entering a deficit position in future years. Robust monitoring will be required for the remainder of the year to ensure that school plan for this risk take necessary steps to avoid this or minimise the impact. It's worth noting we were told this time last financial year, and our reserves for schools went up. They did not go down. So always be mindful of this at this time of year. In line with the council's financial regulations, Cabinet is asked to approve a non-recurring budget vehicle for use onto the delivery of low carbon heat within the estate as set out in 2.7 of the report. Reserve requests, Cabinet is asked to approve the recommendation to allocate funds from the prior year undetermined reserves as set out in 4.4 of the report, and the use of the transformation reserve as set out in 4.5 of the report. That's all aimed at what colleagues want to discuss. I ask the Cabinet to consider the following proposals. Note the overall budget forecast position outlined within this report. Note the overall current position shortfall for delivery of 25-26 revenue budget savings. The Cabinet wants to work hard with their service area delivery to reach these savings. Note the overall position in relation to schools, acknowledging the risk that the financial individual deficit position could emerge by the end of the financial year. Note the forecast movements and reserves. Approve the budget vehicle recommendation as set out in 2.7 of the report. Approve the recommendation to allocate funds for the prior year and spend reserve as set out in 4.4 of the report, and the use of transformation reserves as set out in 4.5 of the report. And finally, thankfully, note the risks identified throughout the report and in the head of finance comments, such as in relation to demand issues being faced. Colleagues, in that really layman's terms report, and all very set out very clearly for the public to understand. Any questions, comments, or queries?
Absolutely.
Councillor Davis.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I want to know within schools' positions in regards to schools' balances. What I'd like to point out is that robust monitoring will be required. It's actually always ongoing as a consistent feature of what we focus on within our schools. Most of our schools, vast majority of our schools, have signed up for an additional SLA to ensure that they get that additional financial support. Most of our schools have done that for a number of years. Estyn have noted that as best practice within our local authority, that our schools get additionality of support. It means that every school in Newport understands their financial position, and we're really proud of the fact that most of our schools do not end up in a deficit position, in spite of the in-year pressures that they often find themselves on, because they understand month by month exactly what their budgets look like and what their spend looks like as well. I'd like to add to that the additionality of grants that come in with the school year often enable us actually to get out of that difficult reserve position, and that doesn't account for this at this point in time. I am confident that our schools will end up in a robust position at the end of this financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Other colleagues. Councillor Lees.
Thank you. I just want to address a bit of a funny one, which is the youth justice overspend. Though it's not significant against some of the others, what you can see is that we're forecast to have 524 days, though the budget could be 483. And I just want to note on this one that it's been picked up by myself and the team that there's a massive delay within the CPS system. So it's not anything to do with the sort of our internal teams, but when we're having children coming in on remand to us, the delay from the CPS is pushing in. It's causing this delay in the number of days that they've been with us. So it is something that we have noted and we are addressing, I guess, at a national level, because obviously that's within Westminster. So just to say, because 524 and only 483 looks quite stark on that, but gives me confidence around the reasoning.
Thank you. Yeah, as a growing city, we're going to have pressures on our budgets. There's no circling that, and we've got to address that and modernise our services further and faster and provide further money into those services. But as Councillor Davis rightly says, we always robustly monitor all our budgets. That is normal standard practice. I think the taxpayer would not understand if we didn't. Okay, can I approve her in a seconder? Councillor Lacey and Councillor Davis. Okay, agenda item 5, Councillor Davis.
Thank you. Of course, included in the report, this is in regards to the summary of the Estyn inspection, the outcomes of Newport schools, September 24 to July 2025. The schools included in this report were inspected from September 24 onwards. Each school was inspected under the arrangements for inspections that came into effect from September 2024. The report identifies the schools and the dates on which the inspections took place, together with the follow-up category and recommendations. New arrangements include the introduction of interim visits to schools once within the 6-year cycle between 4 visits. These regular touch points provide Estyn with an opportunity to visit the school to consider the school's progress against the recommendations from their core inspection and offer advice and guidance on how the school can strengthen its current improvement plan. A letter is published on the Estyn website following these visits. Overall, the school inspection profile in Newport is very positive, as it has been for some time. Of the 8 schools inspected in 24 to 25, 5 schools had 1 or more spotlights in their inspection reports on innovative practice that showcases strengths that are worthy of sharing. It should be noted that non-maintained nursery settings continue to perform well, as do all Welsh medium primary schools. Other schools with strong practice include Clytha, St David's RC Primary, Millbrook Primary and Mount Pleasant Primary. The performance of Clear and Comprehensive was also very pleasing, noting the impact of the new governing body on its improvement journey. One school was placed in a statutory category requiring significant improvement, and that was Litway Primary School. This was not a surprise to local authority and the council, and the council has been swift in using its statutory powers. This has included strengthening the governing body with additional governors and the new local government nominated chair and vice chair of governors, and by strengthening the school's leadership. The local authority will monitor the school's progress against its post-inspection action plan through 6 weekly schools causing concern meetings. The Gwent Primary School that was inspected in April 2023 and was placed in an Estyn review, although this option no longer exists. Given the school has not yet made sufficient progress against its recommendations since the core inspection, it was placed in a category of requiring significant improvement. The local authority has worked with the governing body to appoint an executive head teacher for 3 years and to strengthen leadership capacity to accelerate improvement. The school is receiving high levels of support from the local authority, and their progress against the post-inspection action plan is monitored through 6 weekly schools causing concern meetings. I ask that this cabinet notes reports and provides comments if they so wish.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillors, any comments or queries? I just want to add, it's a great report overall, and that's, reflective of the report, and thank you to you and the team who've done an incredible job, and also our teachers and head teachers and teaching assistants and all school staff who do an incredible job. But where schools aren't hitting their recommendations, we're absolutely crystal clear. Our priority as a council, as a political administration, is to the children.
Absolutely.
The best that they get the best of what we are able to offer and the best life opportunities. So where schools aren't meeting that standard, we will step in and we will make sure that those recommendations happen for those children. That's our number 1 priority. Can I have approval in a second? Councillor Howell and Councillor Clark. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Agenda item 6, empty home strategy. Councillor Dan.
It's a decision to seek approval of empty home strategy. The aim of the strategy is to reduce the number of homes in Newport which are left unoccupied. Tackling long-term empty homes is a priority for the council. One of the strategies aims to raise the profile of the issue of empty properties to maximise the number brought back into use. Bringing homes back into use helps to meet housing need and improves neighbourhoods. Strategy sets out aims and how these will be achieved. It also focuses on encouraging owners to keep properties occupied and, when appropriate, taking enforcement action to bring homes back into use. Again, using that carrot and stick approach. We're asking owners of empty properties to come forward and seek support from the council so we can offer support and to prevent any stick, if you like, but when it comes to premium taxes, etc. People tend to run away from that, and we're here to support them. So I asked the cabinet to consider approving the empty home strategy 25 to 2030.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Any comments or questions? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I think this is really important. It's the key in this proposal is that as we know, but we don't hide away that Newport is the fastest growing city in Wales, and that's absolutely key. So what Councillor Dan has mentioned there is we're here to work in partnership with the empty homes and properties which are not being used, and that's something we want to do in a really sort of front foot positive way. There are other options, but we want to work with people. And I believe this is an absolutely positive, pushing it in the right direction. It's a positive move. And I'm always slightly suspicious. Why wouldn't you want to work with the council? We're offering a hand here. We're offering to communication. We're offering to help with you. We're offering to work with you. And that can only benefit everyone. So I'm happy to sort of back this council.
Thank you. Please. Want to add as well, empty home strategy and homes in general, it's not just about the bricks and mortar element, it's about people, it's about communities as well, and removing any blight in any community. We don't want properties just sitting there whilst families are in temporary accommodation. So it's about supporting the community as a whole. Socially, it's the social aspect, isn't it, really? Health and well-being and creating places where residents can thrive. That's why I've also asked, the housing team who worked extremely hard. I'd like to, compliment Sarah, who's worked, really, really, hard in bringing forward this updated strategy. It's a thoughtful, very data-led strategy. She's prepared it very carefully and collated all the information alongside her team. And what we want to do is add, the transformation element as well. Nita, as you mentioned earlier on, housing is a transformation area. We want to make data available for elected members as well at a very neighbourhood, street level to see and visualize the empty properties in their areas, so they can hold me account as well as an executive. Just giving, I think, that extra layer of scrutiny is something that's, I think, I'm hoping elected members welcome that, and essentially it's the citizens that we're serving as well, so they can report back in a very efficient manner. And reducing, the burden on our officers.
Absolutely. Any other comments? I'm half tempted to call this a no-brainer strategy. I talk ad nauseum about us being the fastest city. I should be clear, the latest stats show that growth is accelerating, and the pressure on homes will get more acute, as we can see in our service budgets. So there's a joy to the fastest growing city in Wales and an economic boom to that, but equally there's a pressure to that, and housing is one of them. And if as many homes we can bring back into use, better for the city and better, more importantly, as you quite rightly say, Councillor Dan, for those residents who are sat in temporary accommodation. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Davis and Councillor Flynn. Thank you. Agenda item 7, panel performance assessment, otherwise known as PPA. This is the council's preparations for the PPA, which will be taking place in March of next year. The Local Government Elections Act 2021 requires local authorities to undertake a panel performance assessment once per electoral term. As an independent panel, who work with us to examine the effectiveness of our governance, performance arrangements, to deliver the strategic priorities of the council's objectives and statutory duties. A working group has been established, led by the Chief Executive and Strategic Director, to prepare for the assessment. Information has been shared with councillors about the assessment, with a training session led by the WRJ to be delivered in November, 2 members. Deliver the assessment, an independent panel needs to be appointed by the council, who will be supported by the Welsh Local Government Association. It is at the discretion of each local authority to determine how the panel will be appointed. And this report recommends that the cabinet approve the appointment of the panel to be delegated to the council's chief executive in consultation with myself as leader of the council. I asked this cabinet to approve the appointment of the panel to be delegated to the chief executive in consultation with myself, and that we note the update of the council's preparations of the PPA. Any comments, queries for Councillor Davis?
Thank you very much. As perverse as it may sound, I always welcome external scrutiny. You don't ever know how good you are until you're told by somebody else. There always will be, even if you're an outstanding performing sort of local authority, there'll always be lessons to learn. There's always ways to improve, and this is going to be a transparent process, and I welcome it because it's something that we can learn from, and it will enable us to deliver more effectively for our residents, because that's always the intention.
Yeah, as you know, as a subcommittee leader, we don't shirk away and from areas where we're not doing so well. We always have to relentlessly focus on those areas to drive performance, because at the end of the day, it's about delivering for our residents of Newport. So there's no point patting ourselves on the back when we're doing well. It's about where we're not, and focusing and delivering and doing better. So I welcome all external scrutiny. I can have a proposer and a seconder for this, Councillor Lacey and Councillor Howells. Okay, item 8, Gwent Wellbeing Plan Annual Report. This is the second line report for the Gwent Wellbeing Plan as a requirement of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act 2015. Newport became part of the Gwent PSB when it was established in October 21, committed to working regionally at a scale to support the wellbeing of our residents across Gwent, whilst continuing to focus on local objectives and activities through one Newport local delivery group. It also provides an update on the progress made against building a fairer Gwent recommendations, as part of Gwent being the first Marmot region in Wales. Case studies are provided throughout the report to demonstrate the strength of collaborative working. There is a deep dive into the best life area of focus. As further reading, I would encourage members to read the one Newport annual report. When you're bored, have a nice read of that report alongside this report, which has examples of the collaborative local activities supporting this work within the local area. The One Newport partnership remains strong in Newport and is an opportunity for us to challenge each other to improve the lives of those who live across this wonderful city. I ask this cabinet to consider the contents of the report and provide any comments to the Gwent PSB to consider during this financial year. Any comments, colleagues? Don't all rush. Once, twice. Okay. Salt. Approver and a seconder. Councillor Danny, Councillor Spencer. Agenda item 9, work programme. Can we please move the work programme, colleagues? Councillor Lacey, Councillor Clark. Thank you all. Have a wonderful November. Hope you started Christmas shopping. Quickly comes around.